Hi everybody, my name is Raylene. Welcome back to my channel. This is a story of this beautiful solid wood piece of furniture on Facebook Marketplace, but I needed help sanding it properly. I was doing it all wrong. I had to sand it 3 times within the last month, and I was actually able to seek help from ChatGPT. So you can hear about that more later on, and I'll tell you exactly how they helped me, what they told me to do, and it actually was really good advice. So here we go. So it all started one late night scrolling session on Facebook Marketplace. Maybe you've been there. And I came across this beautiful solid wood piece for my dining area. I contacted the seller that night. Long story short, he was able to make arrangements. I was able to pick it up that next morning at 8 a.m., I think it was. Him and his wife were so very kind enough to help me load the piece into my mother-in-law's truck. She also helped me with this pickup situation. So I think in the end it was meant to be mine. The seller even said those exact words. So here I go with my little one on board, and we're off on another crazy Facebook Marketplace adventure. This is the piece. I had to start off by sanding it. And to preface this, I thought I was sanding properly here. I thought I was doing enough. I thought I was sanding it down good enough, but as you'll see as this story unfolds, this was not a good sanding job at all, which I am now aware of. So I have been sanding this cabinet. Oh gosh. And then initially I wanted to stain it a darker brown, but now that I'm sanding it, I can kind of see this lighter shade of brown. So now I'm not sure if I still want it a dark brown or if I want to make it a similar color to that piece that I found online, because I'm kind of liking the lighter shades, this lighter shade of brown. So that's to be determined. I sanded this down and I tried to apply a stain on this, and silly me, the wood did not absorb the stain. Why? Because I did not sand properly. So I was sort of at a loss here. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know what to do. So one afternoon I was putting on the stain, and I think I started crying out of frustration, because here I am putting the stain on and it looks exactly the same like it looked when I picked it up. My goal here was to remove the orange lacquer that was on the piece. Every time I put a stain on, it basically just reverted back to that orangey lacquer. So I was essentially just making that orange color glossy again. And so this is the point where I was crying. And my husband comes over and says, with this one, the weathered oak, it's really not making a big difference in the color other than like giving it a sheen. It's not really adding any richness or color. I've never used special walnut, so I'm curious to see what the color will look like. Oh, that's really dark. Oh, well, let's see. I just don't want this orange tint to be there. I don't want it to have an orange tint. I want it to be more of a brown. So brush it on, and then you're supposed to like wipe it off. Let's see how it looks on this bottom foot. And I really don't see a big difference, other than it's like shiny and that one's not shiny. I don't really see a big difference in the color. I like how the feet came out. Like, I want everything to be this color, but I feel like it's just staying orange. Just a little frustrated because it kind of just looks like the same as it did when I first got it. Doesn't it look the same? Looks like I didn't even sand it. I mean, it looks orange still. So, I'm not really sure what I'm doing wrong. But I'm gonna maybe keep playing around with a few more stains. But I'm also thinking, because I kind of want that washed out type of look, I don't want it so glossy at the end. I'm thinking maybe I need to do like a fine sand at the very end. And then I don't know if I should put a top coat or not, because I don't want such a glossy look. So I think if I keep putting the stain, it'll help with the color. And then if I sand it one last time, then it'll help give it that like distressed, worn out type of look. And he said something like, "Stop crying. Are you gonna cry over it or figure it out?" And I think my exact response to him was, "I'm gonna cry about it first and then I'll figure it out. But first I need to just cry." And so that's exactly what I did. I cried about it and I sought out some help from ChatGPT. So at first I found these photos online. This was sort of my inspiration photo. This is the color that I was trying to achieve, but I didn't know what stain color this was. I had no idea brand, what color, anything. So I kind of thought to myself, well, if my kids were in this position, what would I tell them? I would tell them, well, did you ask? Ask questions. And so I thought, okay, well, let me message her. Let me ask. Maybe she knows. Maybe out of a miracle, maybe she'll respond. And so here I go, messaging her. She has this beautiful home. You might have even seen her pictures on Pinterest or Instagram. So I thought, okay, let me message her. What color stain is this? And, I wait a little. 30 minutes later, an hour later, still no response. Now, I'm sure she gets a lot of questions, so I was okay with the fact that she didn't respond, but I needed to move on with the project. So this is when I decided to ask ChatGPT, and it responded with, I think, some accurate information. It replied that this was most likely some sort of honey stain. And it even responded with some options of brands, real stain colors that you can go and purchase at your local hardware stores. And it even mentioned using a wood conditioner if you have pine, because pine wood tends to get blotchy and it doesn't absorb the stain evenly. And so then that led me to my next question. Well, how do I know if I have pine wood? What if I have pine wood? So then, all of these things, I'm like, I don't know. Like, should I ask it this? I don't know if it can respond correctly. And so I thought, what the heck? I'm just going to ask it. How do I know if I have pine wood? So then it responded, you can look for this, this, and that. And I said, no, just do I have pine wood in this photo? So then I did that. I submitted a photo and it responded saying that this is most likely made out of pine wood. It also recommended using a gel stain for pine wood to sort of prevent that blotchiness, and it said that gel stains just do better on pine wood. But wait, there was one more thing I needed help with. And yeah, you guessed it, sanding. This whole time, I just wasn't sure if I should be sanding more. I thought I was harming the wood. I thought I was taking too many layers off. So I'm at this point in the conversation, why not ask it about sanding? Who knows? Maybe it does know. In reference to the photo that I submitted, I asked, does it look like I sanded enough? And basically it said that I had a good start, but I wasn't done. I needed to keep going. I needed to take more of the veneer, more of the lacquer off. I could see that there was still some of that varnish on the piece of furniture, and I needed to sand that off in order to restain it. So to continue this project meant that I had to sand it down again. And so that was my plan. I had a new plan. I was going to resand it. I was going to put the wood conditioner and use a gel stain. You know, I sanded down more. I really don't know if this is gonna look any different. So the directions say to brush it on like so, let it sit for a minute or two, and then wipe the excess. You then let it dry for like 6 to 8 hours. I kind of like that. I think I need like a softer cloth. This is kind of making more streaks. So it is looking a little lighter than the original lacquer color, which is good. This is what I want. And I think when it dries, it will lighten up a little bit too. So I think I'm just gonna continue with this process because I'm definitely not sanding anymore. I think that I'm getting to a point where I think if I continue sanding, I feel like I'm messing up the wood in some areas because it's getting like not smooth, it's getting like really mushy. I'm just gonna continue with this process. I think it's in the direction that I am envisioning. So things are looking better. I've sanded twice and I've used a gel stain. I'm not really happy with the outcome. You can see here there's a lot of variation. Like you can see where I sanded like that. I did like little zigzag. So with that said, I feel like I did not sand properly. Yeah, I'm really not happy with how it's coming along. I'm really frustrated. And at this point, I thought this was gonna be it. I thought I could put the stain on and I'd be done and it would look beautiful. But I realized that I, again, did not sand properly, which sounds so hard to hear because you would think that with all the research and all the research that I did before this project, you would think that I would have known what I was doing. You'll hear me say this a lot in the video. I thought I was taking too many layers off of the wood. I thought I was harming the wood by sanding down all the way to the sort of bare wood. You know, I could still see the veneer on the piece of furniture, but I thought if I took all that off, I thought I was going to mess up the wood for some reason. So I did a little more research, and with my research, I found two things. So one, I learned that the sander I was using was actually doing more harm than good. It was adding to the mistakes in this project. And two, I learned that I really need to slow down when I'm sanding. I need to do one row at a time, sort of overlap. I was sanding way too haphazardly. I was doing zigzag motions. Even in one of the areas I could see the zigzag motion of, you know, where the veneer was taken off. I could see that it was like in the shape of a Z, and when I put the stain on, that even came to light also. I could see the zigzag, you know, markings from my sanding. So I needed to correct all of that. So as much as I didn't want to resand again, and you'll hear me say that throughout the video, did not want to resand. No one wants to sand ever, not even in the beginning. So as much as I didn't want to resand for the third time, I knew that I had to because I knew that I couldn't give this like a fair judgment if I wasn't doing it properly. So back to my plan was to resand, wood conditioner, gel stain. First thing I did was to go and buy a new sander, which thankfully, amazing. This made such a huge difference. Okay, here I am, sanding again. I need to sand a lot slower is what I've learned. I was sanding really fast before and just random directions and, you know, just going really zigzag. Stay in one row, sand like that, kind of overlap as you go to the next row. So I just need to take my time more. I'm just gonna start with this small area here first, sample area, see if I do need to do the rest of the piece. The wood conditioner is the one thing I didn't actually do because I had the gel stain, which is an oil-based stain. The only wood conditioners I could find in stores were water-based. The two oil, water, it just didn't make sense to me mixing those. And I knew I wanted to use the gel stain because that's what was recommended. In hindsight, I could have bought oil-based wood conditioner online, you know, waited for it to ship, but I didn't. And kind of a little bit regretting that. I'm not resanding for the fourth time. So it's gonna stay as it is. I think it's okay. Not every piece of furniture is perfectly perfect. I did, however, buy a top coat online that is compatible with oil-based gel stains. So that I'm still waiting for. So this is my third attempt at sanding it. And I think this is what it's supposed to look like. I've done the 3 levels of sanding. I think I did 80 and then 120 and then 220. So I gradually increased the number, but yeah, you can see that's the true color of the wood. And for some reason, I thought that sanding down to that level, I thought that I was like harming the wood. I guess I was just afraid to really get down to like the bare wood, but I mean that's what sanding is, right? I just have never really done anything like that before, and I think I felt like just a little afraid that I was taking too much off, but I think this is how it's supposed to be. That way when I stain it, you know, the stain actually shows. It's not just the previous lacquer. This is the end. Now I'm not sanding anymore. So it said to go opposite of the grain, which is why I went this way, to make sure that it gets into the wood, and then you go in the direction of the grain. Okay, so see how this looks so much better. Like, it's such a warmer color. It's not so bright orange. I'm so glad that I sanded down more, because this is the tone that I wanted. Just more of a brown, not so much orange. Finally. Gosh, this has taken so long. This is my first time sanding something down, you know, trying to remove all the stain. This is my first time removing stain from a piece and restaining it. I've never actually done that before. I've always maybe sanded something, you know, a piece of wood, sanded it just a little bit to paint it. You know, you always want to sand a little bit so the paint can stick, but I've never completely removed a stain color in preparation for a new stain color. So I just didn't know the process, even though I read, you know, directions. Even on YouTube, people would show you them sanding, and they would start from, you know, 120 and then go to 180 and then go to 220. But they started off with a bare piece of wood. Their piece of wood did not have paint or stain. So I really wasn't able to visualize, you know, what it looks like to fully remove stain or paint. But in hindsight, it's like, well, duh, you need to sand it until it's like bare wood. But I just didn't know. I thought I was harming the wood if I kept on sanding to that point. But I didn't. Like, look how great this looks. I'm really not like tech savvy in that way to where I'm like, oh yeah, let me ask AI. But I didn't have a clue of where to start. I didn't know what kind of wood this was. And I wasn't even gonna ask it, like, what type of wood is this? I'm like, it's not gonna know. But it knew. And it recommended a gel stain, and look how great the gel stain looks on here. If you're someone that's like, I don't know what to do on there, like, just give it a try. You never know where the conversation will go, you know, based on like what they respond. So, all in all, I think that this project, I kept saying this project is like the death of me. This is the death of me. But I feel like really this is just the beginning. This is the birth of me and my staining experience. This is the first time that I have removed a stain in preparation for a new stain color. And with all of this knowledge, I just am kind of excited to, do this in the future. If there's a piece that I come across that I really like, but let me know if you have any tips also. Always open to learning even after I go through these projects. And this china cabinet is actually part of my dining room makeover, so stay tuned for that one also. I still have a few more things to add. Thank you for going along on this journey with me. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe for more home decor and home design videos. I would really appreciate it. Hit the notifications, that way you are notified when I post any videos. And thank you for being here. See you next time.